crowd had been following Jesus all day. Most of them had probably been following him for weeks. They'd seen him feed 5,000. They followed him across the lake on boats. And then he said something that changed everything. He said that he was the bread from heaven, that he was the real food, he was the real drink. And if they ate of his body and drank of his blood, then they were going to live forever. Then after he said that, at first one by one, and then in groups, they turned and walked away. So this is the last part of the Bread of Life discourse. This is the last part of the story that started with Jesus feeding the 5,000. And Jesus has made claim after claim that he is the bread of life, that he is from heaven, and that the Father has sent him. And he tells them that no one comes to the Father unless he draws them. And these are not comfortable words, but they're words that force a decision. And John tells us that because of this, many of the disciples, not the 12 disciples that became apostles, but many of the disciples in that group, many of those people that had been with Jesus a long time, started grumbling. Notice what they didn't say. They didn't say, this is confusing. Can you help us understand? They said, this is hard. It's difficult. But they understood it well enough to be offended by it, to be angry about it. You see, the problem wasn't confusion. The problem was clarity. Jesus knows what's happening, and he says, does this offend you? What are you going to do when you see the Son of Man ascend to where he was before? And he doesn't walk it back. He doesn't gloss it over. He continues on, and he says, you think this is hard? Wait till you see what's coming. Then he says something that kind of reframes this difficult conversation a little bit. He said, it's the Spirit that gives life. He says, our flesh, it counts for nothing. It's the words that I spoke to you that are spirit and give life. Then he says something that's even harder. He says, no one can come to me unless the Father has enabled them to. Meaning, unless the Father has caused you to see Jesus for who he really is, you're not going to come to him and follow him. And at that, many of the disciples turned and walked away. The irony is that crowd is the one that a day before had tried to force him to become their king, and now they're turning and abandoning him. Jesus watches them go, and then he turns to the 12 and he asks them, what about you? Do you want to leave too? But Simon Peter answers, and it's not a confident declaration, but there is some goodness in what he says and some spine that he has somewhere, and he says, but Lord, where are we going to go? You have the words of life, and we've come to believe that you are the Lord, the one from God. And then Jesus says something that's both foreshadowing, it's troublesome, it's unexpected. He said, did I not choose you, the 12, yet one of you is the devil? Now John adds that Jesus is talking about Judas, and we know that Judas will betray him. So even among the 12, there's problems. There's a few things I want to point out in this story, and the first is what Jesus did not do. And what he didn't do is he didn't chase them. He rose the bar, and he expected the folks to come to that level. He didn't water it down. He didn't water down the gospel. He didn't give them an easy out. He gave them some hard words, some hard things to think about. And most walked away. You see, Jesus isn't interested in a crowd of followers, large numbers of people who just are following him for the wrong reasons. They wanted bread, they wanted fed, they wanted miracles, but they didn't want the actual cost of following him. I mean, following Jesus is never easy. It was never meant to be easy, and he says so multiple times. Being a follower of Jesus is hard. And the second is, when Jesus talks about the Spirit and how important the Spirit is to our faith, he's saying our flesh can't do anything. We can't work our way or do good works to get into heaven. It's that our faith and our belief and our salvation starts with the Spirit. And the Spirit has to lead us. You see, the disciples didn't stay because they were smarter or braver or understood what Jesus said any better than anybody else. They stood because something had overtaken them and enabled them and empowered them to believe and to stay. And they couldn't let go of it. And then there's Peter's answer. I wonder if there was a little snark in his answer and he said something like, where are we going to go? I don't know. But it's true. It's honest. It's not because he's saying they're too poor or they don't have a home or anything like that. He says that his words and the things that he's saying and what Peter is seeing him do, nowhere else makes sense to Peter but to be with Jesus. Do you see the difference? Where we're going to go is not, I don't have anywhere else to go because I don't have anything to do. There's nowhere else I could go because being with you is all that I need and all that I have. Because he said, your words have eternal life. And I think that's the question that Jesus asks us, perhaps every day of our life with him. And sometimes maybe we want to answer the question a different way. Maybe our actions actually answer that question a different way. But Jesus asks us, do you not want to go too? I mean, maybe you've been there. Maybe you've been in a situation where you felt that it was just too hard to follow Jesus any longer. Maybe you weren't getting the answers that you were seeking to your prayers. And maybe it was that you were in a church environment that was hurtful and painful. Or maybe you were in just a life situation that you couldn't see clearly. And it didn't seem that Jesus was there with you. Maybe you walked away from something. Maybe someone you loved walked away from you. I mean, the people who left Jesus in John 6, a lot of them weren't random followers. They were disciples, meaning that they were students of his. They'd been with him for a while, and they still left. But like Peter said, to whom would you go? I mean, his words have eternal life. I mean, it's not a slogan. It's not a sales pitch to you. I mean, think about it. Where would you go? If not Jesus, who? Can I just tell you that you don't have to have the Bible memorized? You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep getting up, keep trying. And you just have to know there's nowhere else to go but Jesus. Grace and peace to you. God bless you. Have a good week.